Okay, so hi everyone. We are UX at UW, and this is actually our first meeting for the spring quarter. I'm Anna, the design director, and Ashley, the president, the one who's usually speaking, won't be here today, so I'll just be covering her for tonight. So our meetings are usually bi-weekly at like 6 p.m., but today it'll be at 7. So there's that, and then also there's no official membership right now, so you can just come whenever at your convenience as usual, and I'll be recording this and posting it on our YouTube. So yeah, with these details out of the way, I think we have two lovely guests, Jennifer Wong and then Dorothy Kim, who'll just talk about connecting their background and like their identities and skills that might not seem like related to design back to like how they design or like why they design. So if you guys want to take the floor, it's all yours.
Okay. I guess I can go first since mine's a little bit shorter and mine's a little bit more conceptual, I think. So, okay, well, hi everyone. My name is Dorothy Kim. Let me start off by sharing my screen. So let me know when you guys can see my screen.
You can see it, I think.
Okay, awesome. Okay, do you guys see it like expanded mode at all?
Yeah.
Or is, okay, awesome. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, welcome to Connecting Identities Design. Hi, I'm Doro. In the past, I have been an ex-software developer and got turned into a product designer. I'm a passionate UX advocate, and fun fact, I'm actually legally blind. If you knock off my glasses, I will legit be not able to find them, and survival of the fittest, I will not survive. So yeah, funny fact. So in terms of what do we mean by identity? The way that I approached it when I first started thinking about that was I started analyzing my own past and asking like the deep kind of questions, the ones that like, you know, who I am really and what makes me passionate and like, what are the obstacles that I overcome? Like, what are the experiences that define who I am today? So I kind of like thought about it in a very formatted shape here, where I identified who I was to the left and then identified all my loves and passions to the right as of now. So yeah, I was an ex-developer in the past. I went to school for it. I actually worked in the industry for several years. I identify myself as a first generation Vietnamese immigrant. I'm actually a mother of 2 children. I am also a wife, but I also love technology, psychology, and art. Those are all 3 passions that I've like led throughout my entire life ever since I was a kid, starting with like different, you know, art and graphics in, you know, school and high school, all the way to diving into all the different aspects of it into college and etc. I have a small love for philanthropic endeavors, finding myself kind of like devoting myself to a lot of different volunteer opportunities that come up, and some side passions that are just more like hobbies. I totally love anime, K-drama, I totally game, and I actually do a little bit of social dancing on the side. But if I were to identify all those questions I asked in the beginning, who I am, my passions, and all the like my experiences or obstacles that I've overcome, I can identify at least 3 obstacles over to the right here. Overcoming depression was definitely one of the highest points in my life because I'm still here today. The next part is different things that came up at work and interpersonal relationships I've overcome in terms of different conflicts I've navigated. And in my personal life with my motherhood, it was a huge, huge battle of just a change of identity in itself. So how do I apply all of this that I kind of just shaped? And like, how does it shape me? Well, I guess it kind of funnels down into like what I want to design for. So let's say if I realized I started having a passion for solving for collaboration because as an ex-developer who has experience in the tech and all these different aspects in my life, navigating, you know, intergenerational trauma with my parents as a Vietnamese immigrant, first generation Vietnamese immigrant, as a mother who kind of like has to make this family work out, and a wife navigating marriage. A lot of different things have to come together in order for collaboration to work in those team type of environments, even in, and over like to the right there, like even in my workplace. As a US advocate, I had to struggle to navigate that part as well. And I even did some, I realized I had a small passion for health design, especially helping other mothers and their struggles over that, and other mental health type of activities, possibly in that type of space in the future. So to elaborate a little bit more on how I kind of navigated that conflicts into what I wanted to do, like for certain case studies that I have ready to talk about for today, I guess. For example, a really big struggle in my UX advocacy is getting heard and getting people to actually adopt in this smaller companies on design in general. And a lot of conflicts come up, especially when you're not on the same page or people don't understand what design is overall. And some of the hardest conversations I had were the ones that disregarded me or thought I, put me down, or, kicked me out of meetings. Like, what are you doing here? You're a designer. You're not supposed to be in this like management meeting. And those were the ones that had like the biggest growth in me, and actually gave me the biggest opportunities for like talking and getting people on the same page with me. For the ones that, like one very specific example, I had somebody who was my boss, and they kicked me out of a meeting because they thought I was not supposed to be there. And later on, I confronted them and saying, I really hated what you did today because you made me not feel a part of the team. And I confronted them, expressed all my, feelings about it, and then got to the point of, getting her to be on the same page and say, you're right, I wasn't there for you as a manager, or I wasn't there for you to be a part of the team, and that was my fault. And it was a great place for me to start seeing eye to eye with different cross team collaborators, I guess. And that kind of led me into my next passion, or like my next step into like actually using it in my different design projects. Like, for example, a Figma case study I did recently, where I was trying to improve collaboration between cross-functional teams like PMs, developers, and designers, so that they all could work together in a better team environment. So just having that passion from what I had in my past and that negativity, and I just wanted to like change that. So that's one example. Another example of my health design was pretty much a life experience as a mom. Long story short, I had two kids, one where I made a lot of breast milk, the other I didn't. And there's a huge saying as you grow into a motherhood, that breast is best. And if you can't produce milk, you feel like a sense of shame as you're like not, good enough as a mom. And so during the beginning of my first child, I had to go and look for different places to basically get breast milk, and it's not the easiest, and there's not really a streamlined way. It's very shady because there's no cheap way to do it. You have to go there's some shady things like Craigslist, where you go off and like pick up coolers from other moms who are willing to donate their breast milk for your own. So I decided to create a case study where I redesigned a certain application that was attempting to fix that problem and trying to streamline that breast milk market. So that was another interesting problem that I kind of decided to dive into. And the next one that I want to start going into, I think a little bit more deeper, is our mental health things, because I in the past have had lots of mental health issues that I overcame, and I would love to explore that in the future. So that's how I started to navigate that. Actually, I don't have more examples here, but yeah, that's what I have for my set of slides. But I think that was a very conceptual overlook on how to identify your design background and identity and how to shape it. And now I think I'll pass it on to Jennifer, who has a more technical a way to approach it. So I'll stop sharing my screen here.
Thanks for your vulnerability, Yara.
Oh, yeah, no worries.
I don't know how technical it really is, but I do have a template for you guys to follow. It's
Oh,
from
yeah,
PDF, but it's
but-
like the shorter version.
Yeah, the
Okay.
template, I'll paste it in the chat again, but go ahead.
Okay. All righty. Okay, so about building a personal brand, I am going to try to briefly talk about my journey into design. Well, first off, I did not study design. I studied sociology and classics. So pretty random. I don't know what everyone's major is, but pretty much everyone told me that I was going to pretty much basically go nowhere in life. Don't listen to those people because it's really about what you do with your major. And I'll tell you a bit more about how I communicated my background with how I design. But yeah, I didn't know what I was doing with my life, which is true. I fell into this stereotype 100%. There was one thing I knew what I wanted to do. You know, it's to start a nonprofit fashion brand for foster care children. As someone who came from foster care, this was always a really big thing for me. I didn't like any of the internships I was doing, but I followed my heart and it led me here. So a lot of the advice I would say is like, follow your heart. Don't just do what people are trying to tell you to do. And I had to learn how to create a logo because my friend who bailed on making the logo left me to do it. Totally fine. We're still friends. So yeah, I learned off of YouTube and LinkedIn Learning. Eventually came across a UX designer who's like, I can help make your nonprofit website more intuitive so people understand your cause more. I actually ended up not really working on the project, but I got exposed to it and I thought it was really fascinating that I could use something like design to inspire such positive action. And so the rest is history. I took an intro to UX design through general assembly class. This was not the boot camp. It's like a one-off class, an intro class. That was super high level. I don't think I got any depth from it. I got rejected from a lot of internships despite taking this class. So you'll see that I did not have the perfect design route, but it's okay. No one does. I did the very silly thing of freelancing and working on 7 different real world projects. I know everyone is probably getting the advice of like, do a bunch of projects. I really highly advise that you don't do that because your quality is going to go down. You only really need 2 projects in your case study, 2 to 3 ideally, and that's pretty much all you need. So really focus on quality here and focus on the personal brand, which is what we'll cover. From there, I did an unpaid internship at Onru, which is a social impact company. This is the first time getting design mentorship. This mentor was actually the one who told me, drop your projects, stop doing 7 projects and only focus on this internship. So yes, that changed my life. That led to design internship at Tom's. Eventually got my first job at a phone case company called Caseology. Was it a job that I wanted? No, but sometimes you just gotta, it takes time to build your path to what you want. I only worked there, I think, for like 8 months. And then I went from that was e-commerce company selling phone cases to Procore Technologies, which is a construction management software company. And I know a lot of people are probably like, oh, like these different industries, like what's up with that? Honestly, like once you're in design, I don't think it really matters that much what industry you are a part of. If you have a variety, that's totally fine. But yeah, I went from something super simple to something difficult, and that honestly became part of my personal brand. Whatever experiences you have, you're gonna find a way to weave it all in. So don't worry. There I became a product designer at Dropbox. Decided I do not want to do like corporate stuff. I really was passionate about, let me just jump to here. I really was passionate about social impact. I didn't want to make it a hobby anymore. So I was like, what if I could just turn social impact into a full-time job? I can work on using design and technology and social innovation to create something bigger. than what I was doing at Dropbox, which is why I started my personal bootcamp, which is where I met Anna and Doro, so that I could have a job while going to grad school. These are my other jobs to help me go to grad school. And that now leads me to what I'm doing now. I am co-founder and CEO at MC, which is TLDR, a learning app on mental wellness for Asian Americans, other racial minorities later, trying to really lower the barriers to just getting like really quick, fast support. So hopefully this helps paint a picture that your route can be all over the place and it's totally fine. So now that I've kind of told you my timeline, sorry, I might have gotten things in the chat. I don't know if I should answer them right now.
I think someone just said they also majored in sociology.
Great, then you're gonna find this very helpful because I'm gonna tell you exactly how I finessed my way into design. Yes, probably got this question. What are you gonna do with X major? It could be engineering, it could be, what are you gonna do with your life? Yeah, it's pretty hard to be positive when people just pretty much look down on you, like you're going nowhere. You need to tell those haters, don't worry, I'm gonna be okay. So how did I go from getting rejected everywhere to getting the job offers at Google, Dropbox, and other startups, and just learning design on my own pretty much, and like having a really weird windy route? It has everything to do with your personal brand and tying different aspects of yourself. Similar, connecting back to what Dorothy had, she was like a software engineer, right? And she also has a passion for like collaboration and like she's super empathetic. Like all those things really build into this package that you are. It's kind of like when you date someone, right? People say things like, oh, they're the total package. They have this, they have that. Same thing with design. You gotta be the total package, but your own package. Now, there's different skills that you might have, right? Some people are better at problem and opportunity framing, which is like they know how to identify a problem and show the impact of solving that problem. Maybe they're good at like prototyping and so forth. Whatever. It's going to be different for everyone. I would say just don't say things that you think you should say, like, I want to like change the world. Sure, maybe you want to change the world, but you know, we're going to help you really get a little bit more specific than that. So ultimately, building your personal brand, everyone's going to have crazy unique backgrounds, and I think you talk about how you're going to leverage that instead of thinking that it's weighing you down. For me, I started seeing like sociology has a lot to do with how I design, because I just don't think a lot of times people think about psychology, like cognitive biases, and someone with a science background or psychology background is going to think that way. But for me, I tend to think about how is this person going to react to this other person in a group, and then the person above them. And I think about like workplace institutions. Like if I'm designing a product for like Dropbox for work, people's behaviors are going to change based on their relationships with other people. And that's entirely like what the major was about. And I think that is like, I don't regret my major for a second, because I really think it has a lot to do with how I design problems and come up with stuff. So really just own your background, own that, and don't let those naysayers say like, oh, what are you going to do with your life? It doesn't matter. It's about what you're going to do with your life. So think about what drives you to design. What do you do? So if you go into my portfolio, I'm going to drop it in the chat here. My identity is, you know, I talk a lot about, I had a long history with volunteering. I started a nonprofit for foster care children. So all that stuff I really like put into this website as much as I can. I literally have such social impact work. That's something I really care about. And I'm an unwavering advocate for forgotten humans. I don't know, some tagline I just came up with, but that's pretty much like who I am as a brand and who I am as a designer, whether it's advocating for people who are underrepresented, or even like underrepresented at work, for example, or like we're not tackling those user problems because the business wants to focus on something else. It all comes full circle, really. So yeah, it's just when you are in a sea of different applications, like your identity does really need to stand out. And so yeah, on my personal brand, like I have like projects like this. I did this completely for free. I spent a ton of hours working on redesigning this website for a foster family agency. That's because I really wanted to, and I wanted to get better at design and design in a way that was different from what I was doing at work. You know, it was a passion project. And then for other things, I also taught design to underserved communities. So when you think about like who is Jen as a package, like you see this in my work outside, and you also see it in my actual job. So things I used to say was like, I'm a human Spotify. Honestly, I just didn't say much about myself. I want to change lives. It's like, I get that you want to change lives, but like, what's that personal story? Why do you want to change lives? Right? Don't talk the talk, walk the walk. Like what actually happened? For me, I talk about how like design to me is about empathy. It's about inclusivity. But I'm not telling you some bullshit answer like, oh, it's just that. Empathy and inclusivity are honestly things that I lacked growing up. Moving around from like home to home, I felt like I never fit in anywhere that I went. I was very alone. And so for me, I know what it's like to feel alone, and I didn't have people standing up for me. I felt like I was very different from everyone that I lived with. And so just me as a person, the core of who I am, I'm very passionate about being an active voice for other people who like their voices aren't heard. Sure, at Dropbox, like, you know, I'm standing up for our customers, and sometimes like maybe when it comes to protecting like privacy policies and things like that, but they don't know that I'm standing up for them, but that's okay. That's just what I care about. So you can try to see this is just who you are is going to come out in different ways, and you want people to see that as not just a person who does design, but someone who also, you know, as a colleague, as a coworker, as a friend. What kind of person are you? So really show that. I had a scholarship for my design boot camp, and the question was very simple, very, very simple. The question is, why do you want to be a product designer? And guess what? Most people said, I want to change lives. Design is the intersection of business and engineering. It's like, well, that's obvious. It is. This is intersection. Tell me what design means to you. What is that personal story? Do the introspection, do the reflection. Because I tell you, like, your identity is not going to really connect to your experiences if you just talk about it. It's in some really vague way. It's not going to be very exciting to hear. So I don't think you have to tell like your whole sad life story or anything, but you know, be honest about what it means to you. I think someone that I know was like, oh, should I talk about how like I'm like grew up as a first generation immigrant? Like I feel like that story is so overtold. And it's like, who cares if like someone says that? Just focus on you. Focus on your story. Your immigrant story is probably different from someone else's immigrant story, and who you are is different from someone else. So that's what I would do. So kind of go on this, we have relentless advocate for users, sociological thinker, data-driven. These are probably some like the strongest parts of me. And so for you, you should really focus on like, what are the 3 top things that like make you unique in the way you design? Yes, I actually literally put sociology here. So yeah, F the haters, because it is such a core and central part of me, and I have evidence to show for it. This is all evidence supporting this thing, because I'm not talking out of my butt like I'm an empathetic person. Like I have case studies to show for it. So I would go through the homework and do that. Pick the top traits, list the top evidence, and then yeah, it all has to just connect the dots. It's gonna look beautiful when you all do that. I would say too, people, it doesn't even matter if you're a graphic designer or you study design. People just don't believe they're a designer. You have to believe that you're a designer, because no one's going to believe you if you don't, right? You've been designing for forever, right? When I was volunteering, I was designing, right? Because I was coming up with like camp counselor experiences that would be like really great for children. That's design, right? Maybe you design something for a club. Maybe you design like a sorority event. That's still design, because you're thinking what it would be the best user experience. Everyone's been designing for forever, so you really got to think about that. I would say, you know, some people are going to come from a non-design background, but you just have to really think about, well, how does this actually connect to design? I'm going to show you an example of that. So one of my students, Emily, here's her resume. She asked me the same question, like, I don't have a design background. Like, how could I possibly relate to design? Because she studied biochemistry. Well, first off, she also had nothing to do with biochemistry when she began. She was like a manager at some small business where she sold like plants. And what was interesting was she learned how to build professional relationships with clients. And by doing this, that helped her with her future stuff. And just for context, Emily is now just got the position as a product designer at Yahoo. And she had no previous design experience really. She never studied anything more than like a few videos off of Interaction Design Foundation. Never did a case study, right? People, you know, in her interview were most interested in not this job, they're interested in this job. Hilarious, right? And that's because this really served as the foundation for everything. That's why it was so interesting. Managing professional relationships with so many people, especially at such a young age, taught her how in her discovery immunology internship at Johnson & Johnson. She then she created a strategy on how to have a better patient experience, and she presented this across 50 different scientists and managers. She's taking her experience of building relationships with people to a professional level. And she has the skill of taking a bunch of different data and simplifying it and presenting it to people. She did that again as a content designer at Total Wellness Magazine. She took a bunch of mental health information from like websites, infographics, illustrations, and then she simplified it, made it super easy, and distributed it to 45,000 college students. That's, again, her skill. Then by the time she actually did design, it all came through. Pitch pages is a way to just show online pitch decks to startup founders and venture capitalists. If you don't know what that is, it's just a presentation deck. And she focused on like, what happens when someone receives a presentation deck? What actions can they take, right? But again, she's simplifying that experience so that when people read through these presentation decks, it's like easy to look through, it's easy to take action. But it also really helped her when talking to design, a product, and engineering, because she's, again, building relationships, facilitating them. And this is literally coming from someone with biochemistry, cognitive science. And the interviewers were most interested in this. I really hope that goes to show you that it's all about tying back to your personal experience. Who are you as a candidate? I think what Emily really does well is she can simplify the toughest things into the easiest pieces to a large group of people. She's great. She's a great communicator. She's a very empathetic communicator. And you can see this through just the people she talked to. She's really into health and wellness. I think she's a very calming person to be around. All that just kind of like ties in together. Oh, okay. So yeah, hopefully this was helpful to see. Let's see. Another one for Yunette in her resume. Really, I'll go through another resume example. Yeah, she studied environmental studies. And for her, she, as a technical assistant at Carlsbad, she designed some websites, but a lot of it was more around like social media. But and she's now a product designer at Asana. How she was able to take these experiences was, I guess, similar to Emily. She just simplified information that was being shared from like one social media platform to like another. She's always like going from like one platform to another and just like creating cohesion in the experiences that she gives. So like when she was working at like a design studio, she took that same theme. Oh, you know, I can work on multiple different projects and I can like tackle them all really well. I can still create a cohesive experience for the design studio. So those are the, oops. those are the examples there of what you can do. So that's pretty much it, but I'll give you, if you don't have it already, a template for your personal brand. This is an interview practice, but if you look here, this is a career ladder that you can try. Just even if your career ladder was like, I was a key club president, like there's probably something that helped you take away something that led to the next and eventually design. So I don't think that anyone is screwed whatsoever. I think it's just a matter of tying everything together and thinking, just tell yourself like every single experience that you've done literally relates to design, and force yourself to be like, how does it relate to design? Because you know what, it does. I bet you if you ask me how does it relate to design, I can tell you how it relates to design. It just does. You gotta really think hard about it. Feel free to ask me how your experiences relate to design, because I think there's definitely a way to get there. Okay. All right, I'm done.
Wow. That was pretty good, pretty good.
All right, cool. Does anyone have any questions or want any feedback on anything? All right, I guess if there aren't any
Yeah.
questions,
No worries.
what do we do?
I guess we can end the meeting now since it'll be a bit short, but that's no worries. Yeah, if you guys want her LinkedIn, let me see if I can find it. Or do you want to pull up? Oh,
Oh,
Laura's
yes,
commented.
notice that it's long. Don't make it that long. At the time that I wrote it, I was really pissed off. I was pissed off, very, very pissed off. And I just never changed it. I also thought it was so funny that people are like, oh my God, I love your about me. I was like, that's so funny. Yeah, because I just wrote on a tangent and never cut it down. And I just left it. I don't think you should do that. I just never change it. Basically, I think I just felt like this is when I was at Dropbox. I just felt like I feel like people are not super open about their lives, and it's just very like cookie cutter, like I want to change lives, and I don't know. I just felt like I didn't know anything about anybody. Like I would read these portfolios and be like, I have no idea who you are. And then I looked at my own portfolio and I was like, I don't even know how I'm coming off. I don't even think I'm being like my real self. I was saying stuff like I like video games and I like basketball. Not that that's not true. It just has nothing to do with what I want, why I design. Like it has nothing to do with who I am as a person. It's just freaking random facts that like no one cares about. So yeah, I was just like, I don't want to be fake. Like I want to be myself, and I'm tired of this professional world just being freaking fake. Like I'm so tired of it. I just angrily one day was like, I want to redo my portfolio in a day. So I redid it in a day. And then I wrote it and never changed it. That's pretty much what I did. Yeah. And I just kind of like left it on as like a joke because I was like, haha.
Oh, also asking how personal, like how much of our lives should we share?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like as much as you're comfortable with. I think that there's a fine line between like challenging someone and like just oversharing to the point where like you're gonna regret it. I myself am just a very open person. I like to talk about personal growth, so it wasn't really that hard. I would just probably say like the more real you can be, the better, just because I think it's just a way to express yourself. So I think ultimately, like, to what extent of your personal life should you share? I would just write down like, why do you want to do design? Why do you care about design? What things are important to you? Why they are? And like, just think like how, write it out first. And then you can be like, oh, maybe I should take this out. Oh, maybe I should take that out. But if like from the very get-go, you don't do any of the reflection and you're just like, I want to change lives. I'd rather you just change things up after you've done the reflection. Yeah, that's I think.
Yeah, I think what in terms of how much you should share on my point of view would be enough to portray your story, but just enough to show your passion in design and where it came from.
Yeah, I love what you said there. I think sometimes like the tell me about yourself is like 10 minutes long. Like in a job interview, it only needs to be like 20 seconds. The 20 to 30 seconds. I mean, it doesn't have to be that long, really. Just literally just enough for them to, oh, like, oh, this person comes from these roots. And then saying things, I mean, I think just saying things like, oh yeah, like I never knew what design was. Like I'm so interesting because like I never knew what design was. And like I'm like, nobody, that's like everybody's story. It's so new. Like it's just so odd to me that people do that. It's so strange to me because that doesn't make you special just because you're like, oh,
Right.
I didn't know and I stumbled across design. Like what? You know,
Yeah.
like
I want to hear like what drew you into it, kind of
yeah,
thing.
not like, oh, I just didn't know what design was. So I took this class and I took this other class and I took this other class and I took this other class. And I'm like, sounds like you just told me your course schedule.
For real.
Yeah, so stuff like that is like, I don't know why you're doing it. I just know what you did.
Yeah, as someone who's done recruiting and like hiring before, when I go through an about me, what I really care about is literally like what motivates you, like why did you choose design in the first place, and like is that going to help, like does that resonate with our company, and like and how does that push our company forward, and like is it our company the best fit for you. And like that's the thought process I have when I go about like hiring and like the about me page. So yeah, just leaving that out there.
People love the about page, like absolutely make it better. And yeah, do you
The
ever
ones
feel,
oh yeah.
oh man, now the good questions are coming. Where do these come from?
I have a lot to say about burnout, but go first, Jen.
Oh no, you go first.
Okay. Yes, I have met lots of UX burnout in the past. And how did I overcome that? I actually met many people, and actually Anna did like a whole little research on how people would navigate it themselves. And I took the ones that kind of worked out for me. And the exercise that I've been doing that has been working for myself is I do like every 2 weeks, kind of like a self retrospective. And that's literally going throughout my days, each day, going throughout each one of my activities and thinking to myself, which one gives me energy and which one, like, you know, like depletes it. Like sometimes when you schedule your day, there's those individuals that just kind of just talk a little too long, or they kind of hover over certain things that just like stretch for no reason, and they kind of just drain you. And there's certain activities that give you, that bolster you. There's people that you talk to that just make that you just vibe with. And like when I start scheduling my day and to navigate that burnout, I make sure that each person that I'm talking to, or each kind of topic, will be something that gives me energy first and then depletes it, and then make sure it's an even schedule between the few. Work always seems to deplete my energy. There's always things that you do at work that always get to you. So I always make sure, like in the middle of my day, I go out for a walk that boosts my energy, or and then like I do yoga, or like something like activity kind of thing that kind of gives it to you. Like these days, it's been like meeting random people on like the internet and just having random chats with them and seeing how well I can navigate that, because that leads to funny, awkward conversations, and that gives me energy. It's weird. What else? Oh yeah, and then like, after the 2 weeks, I go through all that, and then let's say yoga doesn't do it for me anymore. After that second week, I can switch it up. Yeah, take out yoga, throw in, I don't know, something else that's new, dancing or something. But basically, activities, you just need to balance the activities that kind of give you energy and kind of like maintain your energy at the same time, so that burnout doesn't like, get to you after a while. So that's kind of how I navigate it.
I love the technical protect your energy. I would say for the times I had burnout, I don't think I really had that much burnout in my career. As a product designer, probably do now doing a startup. But I would say like more specific to being a designer, I feel like I just like burned myself out by my own like self-criticism. I think that was just like so mentally exhausting. And it drove me to do a lot of things, but I feel like it could have been less mentally taxing, which would have reduced the burnout. So like I'd say, for example, like at Procore Caseology, I was so obsessed with like going to a top tier design company. And I felt like if I'm not there, I'm not good enough. It was so black and white. If I'm not making six figures, like I have failed. And it was like depressing to think that way, because I don't think that like I think that it can be an indicator of your level or like your skill, but I don't think it's like the indicator of your worth or anything, nor your skill either. So I think that was really silly, and I would just spend so much energy, like beating myself up, telling myself that I wasn't good enough. So like energy is not necessarily, and burnout, it doesn't necessarily equate to like, oh, I worked this many hours and therefore I am tired, right? Like Dorothy said, like it could be the people that you're with, like those kind of things zap your energy. It could be the way you talk to yourself, like that zaps your energy. So it's just to be cognizant that like not everything is just like an hour for an hour.
I love that. It kind of like, to bounce off that idea, it kind of reminds me of this new exercise I've been doing, which kind of practices self-compassion, because I used to do that a lot too. And if there's a day where I don't meet all my own expectations of myself, I like kind of mantra it out and go like, under pressure, it's okay to be kind, not to everyone around you, but to yourself. And it's like, it's been really good. So what's it called? And just giving yourself that self-compassion and that self-forgiveness and the exercise of it slowly started allowing me to release and like maintain my energy again and continue on. So just something interesting that I wanted to bounce off of.
Yeah, do so much of it is mental energy, your boundaries, and I think what you said, it just could be as simple as like giving yourself an affirmation or words. It does a lot.
Yeah, especially when you're like stressed out to the point where you're like arguing with people, and then just like I just think to myself, be kind. Am I kind? Yes, I can be kind. I can just talk myself into it instead of being that negative energy. So
honestly, I think kindness is so healing. I think it is. It's funny, I think a lot of people are like, oh, like I don't want to volunteer, I don't want to be helpful to other people because like I have so much shit going on in my life, which I mean it's true, sometimes you just do have a lot of stuff going on in your life, or I'm too stressed. But like studies have shown that if you're giving to someone, I don't mean like go to a soup kitchen or something, but I don't know, it just could be like doing a nice gesture for someone can actually make you feel mentally better. Like it feels good. You're contributing to something greater, you're contributing to something, and it's counterintuitive, but it works. And pretty much all my life decisions and has everything to do with some kind of volunteering. It's led to something better because of that.
Yeah,
it takes energy to me. Yeah, you do have to think about how to be mean. Yeah, you have to think about how you're going to tear someone down.
Yes, and it's so interesting. What's it called? Something a little related, but not really. There was like this kid that was like, how do I say this? Because I have kids, I have to talk to other kids too. And one of my son's friends was being bullied and I didn't know, but his behavior started changing around my son. Like he would break his toys and things like that. I'm like, William, you're not acting like yourself. What's up? And like, he's like, well, because he really like is proud of his strength. So he goes like, I'm strong, so I'm gonna break things. And I'm like, even though you're strong, you should really, instead of pushing things down, you should really lift things up. And it changed his demeanor like the next day. And he was like finally expressing to me, he's like, yeah, a kid was like, being mean to me in the playground and like, it was doing all these nasty things to him. And like, it made him want to like emulate that because that was like cool. And then, yeah, in the end, he's all like, you're right. Cause only with like real strength do you like push people up. So I thought that was cute.
Okay.
Good question.
Do you know how to better tell a story of previous project and show personal feature? And can you elaborate on that?
Previous project.
I actually want to ask that how to use the personal website to better show your previous experience and your skill set to better match the opportunity.
Oh, I mean, I guess it depends on what the job is asking for. Like, if you're applying to some B2B company or some software as a service, I don't know, analytics platform or something, they probably will want something a little bit more complex to show. So then I would put those forward. I don't think I would go and like create a completely separate portfolio, but I don't know, like maybe you can have like different landing pages for whatever types of roles that you want. Like that's an option if you like actually have enough projects. If you're applying to like a company that really wants mobile designers, they're gonna want mobile design. So I feel like it just kind of depends. Some people are not really gonna look through much of your portfolio, so they might just only pay attention to your first couple projects. So that's why I said like maybe have a different landing page. I've never done that before, but could see how that could be useful. Or maybe they want someone who's going to work on design systems, then you like definitely will want to work on it.
In my perspective on that, let me think. So I've like the few different applicants that I've looked through and seen, it seems like the way that they start personalizing things is when they actually start talking to the recruiter. And that's when they like shove a deck at me or like they give me like a personalized like catered presentation towards the company. And that's when that's like feature specific and skill specific. Yeah, and it really depends on yeah, your skill sets. I think doing the different landing pages is going to be kind of difficult. At least I think I haven't seen it being done very well yet, but I think the best bet was just casting your net broad and sticking with your own skill sets and what you want to do, because once you actually put out case studies in your portfolio that it's stuff that you want, people who actually need people like you and start like looking at your case studies and like see the different problems you've explored, that they'll start coming for you for those types of things. So
yeah,
that's what I would advise.
I would agree with that. I feel like it is too much work to probably create a separate landing page. Like you should just pick something that you really want. I do know someone who saw a Facebook graphic designer job posting, so she changed her portfolio to put the graphic design stuff up first. The only bad thing is that it takes her away from like product design jobs because it's graphic design at the top. But it just kind of depends on what you want. That's why when you do a job interview, like they'll tell you what they want and you'll have a portfolio presentation. That's when you can start cherry picking the projects. But it's kind of weird to cherry pick in a portfolio through landing pages. But
It's
I mean, if you want to be really extreme and you care that much, I would not spend the time doing that.
Yeah, I think it's in the point of time and how much effort I will get to do. I think that might be a little bit too complicated. I like literally I literally got emailed a pitch deck PDF like catered to my current company very specifically off like of a cold recommendation or like off of just like random because they just really wanted to the position. And I was just like, oh, that's very nice. And like because everything, it was like a virtual portfolio even. So like they had like, not virtual, sorry, a PDF portfolio. So they kind of have like an emulation of their like website in a PDF format. And before I knew it, it was like already an attachment to an email. So I just started clicking through it anyways. So it works. It got me through it. So that's one way you can try that too. Those have specific PDFs ready for certain positions or roles that you like IC or individual contributor or like, certain types of problems too. So you can try that.
There are any more questions coming, but
These are great questions, by the way.
real.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think like we all just have like a lot more like in our toolkit than we realize, but it's just like it takes some like reflection to just get that going and like accepting that you have all these like
Yeah, I think it's just like, I feel like what helps is like having someone like literally tell you, because I know even for myself, like I'm super in my head and like it's helpful for me to have someone else be like, Jen, like this is what you've been doing well. Because
oh,
yeah, yeah, like I have my friends like keep me in check or like my mentors, and it's like, yeah, I think it's just good to like lean on your friends. You just ask them like, what do you think I'm doing well so far? Like, what do you like about me? Or something like that. I don't know. Those are really uplifting.
Those are definitely helpful. I definitely have days where I'm just like super down and I go like super critical and go like, oh, this person is like way before like ahead of me
I
versus where
just feel
I
like imposter
started.
syndrome.
Yes,
Imposter
it's
syndrome.
extreme imposter syndrome like hits. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, am I doing anything right? Am I even like a good manager? Like what the heck am I doing wrong? Am I just leading everyone the wrong way? And then like, I don't know, you just need that second, opinion. It's just probably really helpful to always get that. So I definitely agree.
I feel like something that helps me, I do so much imposter syndrome moments now because I'm doing stuff that I have no idea what I'm doing as a founder. That I tell myself like, what did I learn? What have I been learning? There's almost always gonna be like, you could totally like F up and you probably learn through that. You probably
Yeah.
learned something. There's always something like positive about like what you learned. Is it the past is never gonna be perfect? And like, I think I saw something on someone's Instagram stories, which was like, you might not be where you are now. Like, we're never where we want to be. There's always going to be something else that we want. It's just like, it's so positive to be like, wow, 3 months ago, I was like this. A year ago, I was here. And I think looking back is always going to be positive, unless you're just that stagnant that like a year happened and literally nothing happened. But I mean, like, something happened. Like, oh, I went on a walk today. That's better than that time I didn't do a walk. So
Yeah. I think there was this exercise that I saw to like help combat imposter syndrome, where you like look at the activities of your day and ask yourself like which one made you uncomfortable. Like for every individual, it's different. Like one person could say like, oh, getting out of bed is uncomfortable for me today, or getting up to brush my teeth, versus some other one where like, oh, I'm about to talk in front of some people today. I'm really nervous, etc. But but the fact that you push yourself to be uncomfortable, that's a sign of growth in itself. So always like it doesn't matter for like whatever activity, the fact that you actually just hit that uncomfortable stage is already a win. And I definitely had those days where I did not want to get out of bed and was super uncomfortable. And I'm like, I do not want to just wake up today and do today, but I did it, and that's a win. So
Good for
yeah,
today.
most definitely.
I don't see there's any more questions. I'll probably end the meeting now since it's about time as well. But thank you guys for everyone for coming, and especially our guests. Birthday Jennifer, thank you so much for coming. Yeah, I'll stop recording for now.
Thank you
And
so
our
much.
yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.